it's never too late to change, right? Age is just a number and mindset, and you can embrace the feeling of going from old to bold. Our whole focus now is on age-specific programming. And there's an old saying that I have that I will not let age change me. I'll change the way I age. If you don't make time for your wellness, you're going to be forced to make time for your illness. Good health isn't about chance. It's about choice. You have a choice every day. It's up to you how you live it. Don't work out because you hate your body. Work out because you love your body and love yourself.
Not because you have to, but you get to, right?
Exactly.
You're listening to the Visibly Fit podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and every week I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a naturopath, fitness expert, and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome to the Visibly Fit podcast. I'm your host, Wendie Pett. I love spending this time with you. I tell you that every time. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Listen, I want you to know that I think it's time that we rewrite the baby boomer narrative. What do you think? I think so. I think it's really time for baby boomers to become empowered and to start taking charge of their health and their fitness. Did you know that baby boomers actually make up a total of nearly a quarter of the total population? That's a lot. That's a lot of baby boomers. And so selfishly, we as a society, if you're a baby boomer, we need you to take care of yourself. We do. Seriously. It's time to redefine what it means to age gracefully and live life to the fullest. So I am so excited to have on today's show a special guest. He is known as the 8-minute abs guy. And you may remember that video from way back when. I owned it. He also sold millions of copies of that video, but he has helped millions of people lose millions of pounds and inches. He has choreographed Kathy Ireland's fitness videos. I had those too. He has a show on PBS called Fit and Delicious. He was on the Dr. Oz show. He was on the 700 Club. He is recognized as America's Age Rewind fitness expert by the godfather of fitness himself, Jack LaLanne. He is just a really treat. And I have not talked to him in quite some time, but I've known him for a very long time, and he's such a special human being. So I want you to welcome to the podcast, Jaime Brenkus. All right. Well, welcome to Visibly Fit, my dear friend, Jaime Brenkus. Oh my goodness.
Wendie.
I have not talked to you, and I mean, I've talked to you about social media, but we first connected over 20 years ago.
That is just hard to believe. It's been 2 decades, but you know what? It's funny. You talk about age rewind. You look 20 years younger. I don't know how that happens, but whatever you're doing, keep it up. It's working.
Oh, okay. Likewise, mister. Likewise. You're already sharing your age with people. So I will share. You are 63 years young. You do not look your age. And I'm sure you don't act it either.
You got some energy. Yeah.
Yeah, I got some energy. So it's so good. But yeah, those of you that are listening or watching, you might recognize Jaime as the 8-minute abs guy, and he sold millions of copies of those videos. And hey, I purchased that video back in the day.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is so cool. So I love that you have just been on this mission, just like myself, to help people get healthy, whole, and complete. And so you're in the zone of really wanting to put the boom back into boomer also. Let's talk about that, because boomers are wanting to live longer, feel better, and look more youthful.
Oh my gosh. Well, Wendie, believe it or not, I'm a boomer, so yeah. I'm right there with everybody. So they want to, of course, it's true. They want to look younger. They want to live longer and feel better. To me, it's never too late to change, right? Age is just a number and mindset. You could embrace the feeling of going from old to bold. And,
yes.
And so I just feel, because of my age, we did 8-minute abs. It was 1994. So this is the 30th anniversary of that. And I was just a young little son of a gun back then. And here I am, embracing my age. And so our whole focus now is on age-specific programming. And there's an old saying that I have that I will not let age change me. I'll change the way I age. And that's the type of format and platform that we have with some of our clients and members as we go forward. And, to me, it's just this ageless energy, this timeless health. And Wendie, what I tell people is, what is the real cost of aging? Wonder if you do nothing at all. We know what's going to happen, whether it's blood pressure, it's diabetes, heart disease, dementia, mild forms of cancer, mobility problems. We know this is going to happen as we age. So you might as well take the bull by the horns and do something about it and what we try to do is lessen that gap from our lifespan to our health span. You've got so many years to live, but it's that health span. That's what we're trying to basically narrow and close that gap by a healthy lifestyle. And it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah. And you say it's not easy, but I think it's just different. A lot of times people think it's hard, but it gets, easier, quote unquote, because you're getting in a routine, you're disciplined, and it doesn't seem so different. It becomes easy, right?
You know what? Absolutely too. And I think the biggest thing is, if you don't make time for your wellness, you're going to be forced to make time for your illness.
Right.
And so we want to make it where it's just as easy as brushing your teeth. It's another part of your day. And again, I think the biggest factor is time. When you think about it, there's 1,440 minutes in a day. When we did our 8-minute abs, and we said, hey, there's only, just give us 8 to start. Then you can do 16 and 24 and 32, but you have to start somewhere. And I think time is we all live hurried, hectic lifestyles, and we're saying, you know what? You do have the time. Make it a priority for yourself. And little things like this. I always tell people, EHOH, every hour on the hour. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're reading a book, if you're on the computer, if you're watching TV, just get up and move. I don't care if you're doing side bends, side twists, squats, anything, just move every hour on the hour. So things that they can incorporate into their lives. So it's a real program for real people who have real jobs, real lives, real, families, household work. Bottom line is they know they can do it. And I tell people that, this idea of, good health isn't about chance. It's about choice. You have a choice every day. It's up to you how you live it. And I think that whole idea of discipline and, trying to improve yourself is so focused on a few things. And I've got a few things that I jotted down that I think, you have to incorporate. And, when we talk about, the idea of faith, you have to have faith. Mm-hmm. And I think, of course, it's always exercise, nutrition, positive thinking, good habits, even as simple as grooming. Things that you can do today, whether it's taking care of your teeth or your hair or your nails, something that can promote health to you. Smile. If you wear a smile, you're well dressed, right? So you got to smile more. Posture, keep your posture upright. Breathe a little bit. Always help others and learn then how to relax. But those type of self-improvement ideas can work into your daily lifestyle if you do it right. And you have to have something what I call is it's baseline doable. And it starts with the time factor first. Because everybody says, well, they get a case of the twos, Wendie, a case of the twos. Oh, it's too cold. It's too warm. It's too late. It's too early. It's too windy. Get that factor out of it.
Or even, I'm too old, I'm too far gone. That kind of too, right?
Exactly. And it can't have that attitude. You have to push on. And I think, you talk about faith. I think, you have to respect your body and your body will respect you in kind. And I think the idea is to be disciplined and dedicated and determined to be as healthy as God would want you to be. And if you abuse yourself and abuse your body, there's a lot of consequences that can happen. So we want to keep, this idea of loving yourself and don't work out because you hate your body. Work out because you love your body and love yourself.
Not because you have to, but you get to, right?
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
You're talking my language. Like I'm feeling like, yeah, I could say
That's right
that.
up
I
your
mean,
alley.
it's all good. It's right up our alleys. But this is what we've been doing for so long. But
Yes.
I want to talk to the person that might be sitting on the couch listening to this, and they're like, yeah, good for you, Jamie and Wendie. You've been doing
Right.
this a long time, and this is what you do for a living. You're just born positive or whatever. What would you say to that person that really does? They have that desire, but they haven't changed their mindset fully. How could you get them to change their mindset into a more positive direction so they can take action for
Well,
their health?
perfect. Good question. And I think just what I was saying just a minute ago, that life's about choices and good health isn't about chance. It's about choice. And the idea is you have to choose your hard, and getting healthy is hard. Chronic disease is hard.
It's
You have
really
a
hard.
choice. Remember what I just said, that, hey, what is the real cost of aging? If you do nothing, it's non-negotiable. It is non-negotiable. This is probably what's going to happen unless you have really, really good DNA. And if that's the case, God bless you. But you need to start somewhere. And the idea is, we know that if you do the right things most of the time, and you have to focus on progress, not perfection. And that includes nutrition, Wendie. I've got to tell you, most
Yes.
people come up to me and say, well, what's your diet? I said, I don't have a diet, but I do follow, certain registered dietitian guidelines. And I always tell people, you have to do things that we know work and we know that don't work. And I can tell you this, if of course, portions, produce, and protein work. And we're not saying don't eat this, don't eat that. To me, that's a diet mentality. We want to focus on a health mentality, which is a big difference in the way we shift our minds. So instead of diet mentality, which says, hey, stop eating this, stop eating that, you shouldn't eat this, focus on edit. So DIET turns into EDIT, right? So you juxtapose those
That's
words
good.
and
Yeah.
say edit. And so don't have this less idea in your mind. Focus on the word more, okay? More fruits, more vegetables, more lean proteins, more healthy oils, more fiber, more water, more sleep, more movement. And if you think about all these elements, if you just incorporate those 80% of the time, not even 100%, you're going to succeed. And I think what happens is most people think this is such a daunting aspect of their lives. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. You have to eat. It's nourishment. You need that. And so we know if you don't move, you rest, you rust. So you have to have these two elements. And like I said, if you start doing that self-improvement plan with good habits and grooming, positive thinking most of the time, hey, not every day's a bowl of cherries, trust me, but it's how you respond to that. But think about smiling more and relaxing a little bit. But go back to the faith aspect. That's a leader that you can't. You put your trust in somebody. Put your trust in him, because without that, I think things are a lot more difficult.
For sure. And so I want to pause on that, because I do want to talk about the faith aspect and your faith journey, because Visibly Fit is all about being fit, mind, body, spirit, and emotions. Sure. And so I want to talk about the faith part and just kind of your journey and how you came to where you are today in your faith.
No, it hasn't been easy. Believe me, it hasn't been easy. But I was raised Catholic. Yeah. And still am to this day. Yeah. And, we still go to church and so forth. And I have to tell you, it just like anything else, remember I talked about discipline, dedication, determination. We know that that's just a part of our lives, my wife and myself and our daughter. And so it just becomes a natural thing to go Sunday mornings. It's not a big deal to us because it's what we always have done. And, I actually, if I miss a week, I actually miss it. That nourishment, that spiritual nourishment that you get. And you need to be fed that once in a while, because let's face it, there's a lot of bad out there. It's a crazy place out there these days. And the one thing you can keep going back to is your faith. And
as a
but
foundation.
Even to have faith in yourself and so forth. But it starts from the spirit in the heart that God has given us. And right. So I try to look at that as from a business standpoint, because a lot of times people in business, they're out for the almighty buck. I was never into that, and in fact, I'm sure you're the same way. To me, it was gratifying helping people, And I knew
Yes.
that if I did the right thing, if you have a winner's spirit
Yeah.
and a champion spirit, that things will happen for you that are good. And I live by that. And hey,
That's
there's
one
a
of the
lot of
things
things
that
that
I've
happen.
always appreciated about you, Jaime, because I do know that. I know that you have a heart for the individual. You do want them to be healthy and well, and you spend extra time with people, and you just really care about the person, just like I do. And I think that that's one of the reasons we connected so soon. But that's
Sure.
what matters, right?
Well, Wendy, I think people can notice that.
Yeah.
And, people are smart. Don't let anybody fool you. And they can smell a rat a mile away. And when they know that you have genuine feelings, that you have them within your best interest, and it's not about the almighty buck, I think they trust you. And, people do business with people they know and like and trust.
Yeah.
And it's that diffusion that you have immediately. It's that welcoming smile that you have. It's that welcoming, aspect that when they come in, because they already have their guard up, because they've
Sure.
already been burnt a million times before.
And they've already tried every diet known to mankind. They've done this, done that, and failed.
Yeah.
And right. So
It's
they're already
not
skeptical.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. And I just think the idea that you lead by example, number one, but two, you want to be the authority in that space, and to know that they can put their trust in you, and to know that you're the go-to person for them.
Yeah.
You have to connect, though. There's that connectivity. Jack LaLanne had a great connectivity with his audience, and he came over as the authority, but he was the guy, with the helping hand and the shoulder and so forth. And it was just a great, I think, before his time, really, he did TV for 33 years, and you can't stay that longevity without that connection with the audience. And I'd like to think that, listen, you've been in business, in the fitness and health business for all those years. I've been in the business since 1985. So it's been going on, almost 4 decades. And so if you were a charlatan, and if you really didn't have people's best interest, you wouldn't be in business that long.
That's it.
And people know. They know.
Good word. That's it, Jaime. And speaking of the godfather of fitness, Jack LaLanne, he recognized you, and Elaine LaLanne recognized you as America's age rewind fitness expert, which leads me to the point of your new book that's out called Age Rewind, Turning Back the Clock, Ageless Energy and Timeless Health. Tell us a little bit about that book. And and
I got to tell you, in fact, I had a couple here. One was the Age Rewind, which is our new book, which you can see, which is kind of cool. But it was just, to me, it was a booklet that needed to be written, because as we get older, people think that there's no hope for them. Right. And, to me, you don't stop exercising because you grow old. You grow old because you stop exercising.
Good word.
So I've got a lot of examples of people who are successful at, in their 50s and 60s and 70s and beyond, as examples in the book, because I want to know that there's hope. Let people know if there's hope, and you could start at any point in time, but you have to start.
Give us one story. Do you mind sharing a story?
I think the biggest thing is John JV from the west side of Cleveland, 76 years old. Perfect example. He was an athlete all his life. But, 76, he's still 76, any way you slice it. He had a rower that he was doing in his home. He tore a hamstring, okay?
With his rower, wow, he was rowing pretty good.
He went all out. He's a type A personality, Wendie.
Yeah.
So JV basically called me, and we knew his a friend of ours. So I went over his house. I gave him a program, and I said, JV, you've got to start utilizing strength training, okay? And to this day, now let's see, he's about 83 now. He's 83. He's still doing the workouts, but now he incorporated a component of fitness that he never did before. And he's had no problems since. But it was the idea that he was so set in his ways that I'm just going to do this for an hour straight. Just really busting his buns. And all of a sudden, when he gets hurt, he thinks, my gosh, well, what do I have to do here to get well again? And it was just the idea. I started going over his lifestyle habits and so forth. We changed a little bit of his nutrition plan, get a little more protein in there, because as we age, we probably need a little more protein because of sarcopenia, which of course happens as we age. and this decline of muscle tissue. And so I tried to explain all that, but it was just a perfect example of somebody who, thought they were doing well, and all of a sudden he gets hurt, throws him back 3-4 months, and all of a sudden, no, JV, you can do this, but now here's what we're going to do. We're going to spend only a half hour on your rower, but then we're going to do a half hour of resistance a couple times a week.
That's so good.
He couldn't thank me more for that, because the idea was he knew that what I was saying was correct, and it was baseline doable, because he had an hour a day. And so instead of doing an hour on the rower,
needed to reallocate his times. Yeah.
And so it's just little things like that we bring up, and knowing that, again, you got to put your trust in somebody, put your trust in people that are, that are going to help you. And I just think, as we age, we start looking at them and going, guys, today is your tomorrow, right? And it's really up to you to shape it and take control and seize every opportunity, because the choices we make each day are really the one thing that we can do is, if you eat well, you live well, you shape you. And if you want to truly transform your health, and I don't even say your body, your health, you have to begin with the facts that physics take over. And if you follow people like yourself or people like me who have lived through this and come from a physiology standpoint, it's going to work. And it doesn't work 50% of the time or 70%. It will work 100% of the time if you do it. And you allow it to do it. And don't have this diet mentality, but a health mentality. And so those are the kind of things, we try to teach, and to try to really focus in on people who are getting into their golden ages and these active agers. But I'm really tickled that we have the opportunity to, I think, help a lot more people at this junction in the game.
That's so good, Jamie. I was going to interject here. With media and just the way the world is right now, it's just sickness is really projected more on us than health. There's the Band-Aid solution, but not the preventative and let's do this right solution. I mean, it's out there, but you have to dig, right? And so what would you say to that person that is like, well, I do okay, I do fine. And then they just want to go to the doctor and get a quick pill to remedy the, issue that really isn't doing a remedy. It's putting a Band-Aid on the approach instead of getting to the root of the issue. What would you say to that person that might just be in that quick fix kind of mentality, or just media induced in that stupor of being drawn to that fix?
Well, I think it's a great question. And I think we know what works and we know what doesn't. And so we try to say to people, if there's one thing we know is that lean people lead lean lives, and it's their habits which make them lean. So if you're trying to be a lean person, you got to focus in on cooking, eating, shopping, fitness, but more importantly, thinking habits, Wendie. So I always tell people it starts from the mind first, then goes to the body. So we have to focus in on, we always say, that why, right? What is their why? What is that priority that makes them, and what's the reason behind the reason that they would want to start a program? And you got to peel that onion away, because it'll get to the point, well, maybe it's, because you can't just say, well, I just want to lose weight. Okay, well, why do you want to lose weight? Well, I want to lose weight because I'm going on vacation. Okay, well, then you want to start peeling back. Or I want to see my grandson graduate from high school.
Keep asking the why until they can't answer it anymore. Yeah.
5 layers at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
right.
That's the first start, because without that, all this exercise physiology and nutrition is out the door. It's got to come from, remember, the heart, and it's got to be, why will they continue to go when even the going gets tough?
That's right.
And it's going to get tough. And there's some things I can tell you that, there's no doubt that, life happens, right? And so you have to navigate through your meals, navigate through your exercise plan, navigate through your faith, navigate through your good habits.
Okay, I'm going to get personal quick. I'm going to interrupt and get personal and say, okay, when has life gotten rough and tough for you, Jamie? What have you had to do? When have you had to maneuver through?
Oh, I can tell you.
Because you've broken through to the other side. So how have you done it?
Wendie, perfect example. And this goes back to a product that I created. And this is amazing. So I created this little portion control plate, and that was going
Yeah.
back 20 years. That's probably how
That's
we
when
met.
we met.
That's
That's it,
exactly right.
Jamie. Oh
That's
my
it. The
gosh.
portion
That's
control
it.
plate. So Wendie, I can tell you this. So the registered dietitian from the Cleveland Clinic and I, had 2 patents on this product.
Right.
Well, we got it in the wrong hands. So we sold, I think maybe we've helped like 120,000 people at the time. A marketing company comes and says, listen, we'd like to market your product. We're going to put it on TV. We're going to put an infomercial. We're going to do this, do that. I believed them. What a dummy. These guys were wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I signed an agreement with them. The dietitian did not. So she was sanctioned to basically sell plates to nurses here, nurses there. These guys put a commercial out, did not work. Okay, it didn't work. So these guys come back and they sue me. Okay, and this is what it killed me.
Wow.
Sued me because I didn't give them exclusivity. And I said, well, I didn't sell anything. Well, your dietitian did. She's owner. I said, but she's half owner of the product. It wasn't my deal. So anyway, long story short, the lawyers, it cost me $400,000.
Wow, Jamie.
I walked away from it. I couldn't take the lawyers anymore. I lost the judgment. I paid them off at this point. However, it just taught me that there's so much evil out there. These people were pure evil. And what they did behind my back, Wendie, these guys went, because I had 2 patents on it, they went to China and retooled it behind my back. Unbelievable. Wow. And they knew that they could do it, and I couldn't stop them. And it was like, oh my God, that's
think of how evil. Yeah, think of how many times that might happen. And
unbelievable.
Yeah. And so that could have taken you down. The reason we share this and you share this is this could have taken you down a downward
Every
spiral
aspect.
And had you eating unhealthy and sitting on the couch crying and eating bonbons. But you didn't do that. You made different choices. In spite of the tough life situation.
Without a doubt. And even from my own personal life standpoint, my wife, I mean, I don't know how she stood by this. They went after her. Yeah. Oh. They sued her too.
Really? Jamie?
Yes, because personal, because our house was in her name. And I swear they went after her because they said, well, you fraudulently transferred the house. I said, we never did that. I always knew that this kind of business, you're open to, litigation. Sure. And so the house was never in my name. So they threw it. Of course, the judge threw it out, but she had to spend $20,000 on an attorney. It was such a learning experience, Wendie. So that's something I can tell you could have hurt us on every level, business wise, certainly mindset wise. But I was bound and determined to rise up from the ashes and say, all right, yes. You know what? These guys aren't going to stop me. And because
what the enemy wanted to do to hurt you and harm you, God can flip that around and
vengeance
exactly.
Is his, they say.
That's right.
That's right.
Yep, that's right. So having a good attitude in the midst of something so traumatic is tough, but yet you can do it. You have to continue to stay in God's word. You have to continue to stay around positive, like mindseted people and continue to get up and move even when you don't feel like it. Right. Because I'm sure you had days you didn't feel like it.
Without a doubt. But but again, what was my why? Again, you got to go back peeling those layers. And I wasn't going to let that get me down because I knew I had more good to do for society.
That's awesome.
And putting those skills. Wendie, my wife can tell you, I don't know much more than, how many calories are in a glass of milk or how to, do a program on fitness. I can't even screw a light bulb in, so it's like, I don't have any much more to give to people. So it's like, this is what I wake up in the morning for. And I think God's blessed me.
God knows your heart.
With that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, God knows your heart and good will always rise above. So way to keep that healthy mindset and continue to push through. And thanks for sharing that authentic story because people are dealing with tough. Yeah, it does. And people are dealing with tough stuff, whether it's in their own family or a business deal gone wrong or a health situation. So, well, let's talk about a couple things here. What would you say? Let's see. Can you recommend specific exercises? Because I know you teach a little bit differently than I do. You know, I use fully my body as my gym, right? But you do weights and that
Which is
kind of thing.
fine. Yes.
But can you recommend a specific exercise or fitness routines for individuals with specific health concerns or limitations? I know the answer to that, but maybe there's someone saying, hey, that's great, but I've got a shoulder injury. I've got knee issues. How do you work around that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you have to focus in on the objectives. If it's to run a marathon, well, then you got to train for a marathon. If it's to be a bodybuilder, you have to train to be a bodybuilder. If it's most of the time, it's basically overall health. There's certain components that have to be met. And of course, to me, resistance is important. And of course, you're using your own body as resistance, which is still resistance.
Yeah.
And depending on a person's fitness level, they all come in, so we want to, we know that if you don't challenge, you don't change. So we want to basically have something that would give their muscles hypertrophy or make it grow, because we need that stimulation of the muscle and activation. And so if somebody has a shoulder injury, well, then you know what? Maybe we focus on the lower half. If somebody has knee injuries, well, then we focus on the upper body. But the fact is, we can navigate through all those incidentals and injuries. And I will tell you this, I truly believe sometimes, when you're in pain, you have to stop. Okay, that's for sure. But if you have somewhat of a discomfort and somewhat that that maybe you still probably can exercise, but you're a little afraid, I like to get the blood flowing. I think that's a healing. That to me heals. As long as you're not, in pain, you heal by movement. And
so do you recommend pushing through the pain just a little bit, just slightly, or
train, don't strain.
Okay, all right. That's
no
good.
pain,
That's
no gain
good.
is out the door.
Yeah.
But I think you have to just go a little bit, because perfect example is my wife. She wasn't an athlete growing up, but so she broke her foot. I should say, two places back in November, and she's afraid now of getting back on it and going for walks.
That
and
fear,
guess what? You've got to work through this, because if you don't move it, it's going to be 10 times worse, and there's going to be calcium buildup and all this other stuff. I said, you have to keep moving it. But to her mind, it's like, no, I want to stay off it because I don't want fear of getting hurt again. And I'm like, no, So I truly believe that, and to keep that going. So yes, if you do have pain out there, you need to diffuse that and say, okay, well, I got to go see the doctor.
But you're bringing up fear, which I think is something very important to talk about, because I come across that as well, where people are like, oh, they're afraid they're going to get injured again, so then they stop altogether. And so, that's a myth, right? We gotta bust through that myth.
You have to bust through it, because again, let's go with physics. I believe in focus on physics, and the fact is, we know that if you don't work the muscles, then of course, there's a lot of things that can happen. Inflammation, right? And that's, you don't want that either.
Atrophy.
And so there's chronic disease, atrophy, as opposed to hypertrophy. And again, it goes back to the muscle tissue. And of course, losing, muscle, as we age. I think that the stats are, Wendie, if I'm not mistaken, after the age of 30, women lose 3 to 5% of their muscle mass per decade. So by the time you're 60 or maybe even 70, you could have lost 20, 30% of your muscle mass. And people are going, well, shoot, what's going on? I eat the same, but I'm getting a little lumpier and bumpier in certain areas because your metabolism is decreased. So what do you have to do? Do your body resistance, right? You do anything that's going to produce an overload principle, a stressor on their body that's going to provide activation of muscle. And as we age, I'm telling you, that's the key. That is absolutely the key. And
stop living such a sedentary lifestyle, right?
You can't do that. It's non-negotiable.
Right.
If you rest, you rust. And to me, getting fit never gets old, right? And so I think the idea is you just got to keep moving.
Yep, and that's what you say in your the book that you did with Jaime LaLanne. If you want to live, move. Right.
There it is.
There it is.
8 minutes a day.
That's it. 8 minutes.
On your way. That's
all about the 8 minutes.
And notice Jack is in the background there. Jack LaLanne.
Oh yeah, he's making sure he's hovering, making sure you're doing it all right.
In spirit. And Elaine was such a pleasure to work with, and she's an effervescent soul. I'll tell you, she
98.
98. Gosh, bless her. I tell you, she's a great lady, and the great people.
Yeah.
And there's the spirit of good people. They were just good, wholesome people, and they never had a bad word to say about people. And it's just amazing. At 98, she still has that inner drive to help people, and
That's
truly,
right.
it's authentic too.
It is, and I had the privilege of having her on episode 46 of the Visibly Fit podcast, and she was just a joy to have on.
Yes.
But I want to ask you, because you recently were brought in as an honoree to Jack LaLanne's legacy expert, or as one. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, gosh, I feel honored for that because Jack LaLanne to me is a mentor. And I mean, when you think about it, without Jack paving the way for people like yourself or myself, we wouldn't even have a business. I mean, he was doing that. I mean, back in the 40s, 1940s.
He was ahead of his time, for sure.
Way ahead of his time. Yeah. Way ahead of his time. And I will tell you this, I was, blessed when I heard that I got a phone call from it's Elaine's agent, and they said, hey, we're going to get you as a part of this LaLanne legacy that you can bring it forward. That's what they're doing. So Jack remains relevant to people that are now younger coming up. Because people that are in their 30s and 40s and even 20s, they don't remember Jack.
Right. LaLanne. Jack who? Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And so now we're kind of establishing a situation where we can still produce content that is in the same vein, in the spirit of Jack LaLanne. And so it's that aspect that I think they recognize that there's a certain, because I wrote the book with Elaine, that certainly was I think a foot in the door to the LaLanne legacy.
Sure.
But I also think, just the spirit of our programming leads to that. And we make it easy, simple, fun, fast. And, I think Jack, he only had a chair and a white dog behind him, so
right.
Or a towel. A towel. Here you go, Wendie.
Right. Jack, it's called No Excuses, Jamie.
Right.
Yeah, there you
exactly
go.
Right. And Wendie, the funny things with the towel, and Jack would do all these things with the towel, but you have a choice with the towel. You can either throw in the towel or use it to wipe the sweat off your face, right? So there's again, life's about choices, right?
That's
throw
good.
It. You want to just sit on the couch and watch TV, or do you want to move a little bit and feel good and again give yourself a chance to lessen that gap between your health span and your lifespan. Yeah. That's what we're talking about, and it only takes a little bit. We're not telling somebody who's a couch potato to say, well, you got to work out an hour a day.
No,
they're not going to do it. They would have done it. If you
got 8 minutes, give me the 8, right?
Give me 8 to start. And then once you start feeling peppy, well, then give me a double 8.
There you go.
Minutes, then 20. But it's just, more isn't better. Better is better.
That's
and,
good.
The idea of again, using your own body's resistance. I mean, as long as they're moving, it works. It works.
It does. That's so good, Jamie. Well, I'm so honored to know you as a friend and a brother in Christ, and just love all that you're doing, and super proud of you. Just keep
thank you.
Keep with that passion, man, because you're leading with the heart, and it shows. And I know you're changing lots and lots of lives. In fact, you've changed millions of lives. So keep on doing the
one body
good
at a
work.
time, Wendie.
That's right.
One body at a time.
That's right. Real quick, before we go, where can people go to get your latest book? Is it 8minuteabs.org?
Actually, 8-Minute Body.
8minutebody.com. 8minutebody.com.
That's the
Perfect.
simplest way to get us. But if they have any questions, they can certainly write to me and so forth. But thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Let's make this a little, instead of 20 years, let's talk more often.
I agree.
I love what you're doing as well. So
all right, my friend. All right. Blessings. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks.
All right, take care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Well, that's a wrap for today's show. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to wendiepett.com. And thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a visibly fit day.